About the alarming new health risks being carried by some of the migrants.
My testimony was laughed at, they yawned at it, but they would not accept when I told them that, in fact, I never met Assad.
The tables could be turning on Robert Mueller after one of his latest targets, lawyers up.
How the special counsel's tactics could end up backfiring in a big way. We'll talk about that. Also, a hero's welcome, the over-the-top reunion that'll make your morning.
Fox and Friends First continues right now. Glamorous, I immediately think of Rob Schmidt.
Don't start. It's too early. It's just too early.
Good morning. You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday. I'm Jillian Mealy.
I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for getting up early with us. She's already started. Straight to a Fox News alert. Border agents arresting an MS-13 gang member that's been traveling along with the migrant caravan. This as Fox News exclusively learns of serious health risks being carried by some of those migrants. Griff Jenkins is live in Tijuana, Mexico. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Jillian and Rob. Yeah, his name is Jose Villalobos Jobel. He's a 29-year-old Honduran traveling with the caravan, the 2,000 migrants in Mexicali. He was apprehended at the Calexico, California port of entry, and he is very much a part of that very dangerous MS-13 gang. In fact, the Customs and Border Protection issuing this statement saying Villalobos confirmed his story of his gang involvement and intent on entering the United States illegally. But, Jillian, that's not the only risk, as you mentioned, these health issues. The spokesman for Tijuana's health department, Raimundo Aguilera, tells me that they have treated 2,267 migrants so far. Over 60% have respiratory infections. There have been 3 confirmed cases of tuberculosis, 4 cases of HIV/AIDS, 101 cases of lice, 4 cases of chickenpox, and they are very much concerned about hepatitis because of the very unsanitary conditions here. There's only 35 bathrooms for 6,000 migrants in a space intended for 1,000. We talked to one of those migrants, Marco Munoz, who says he feels like he was lied to by the organizers from the beginning, and he's worried now this group is headed for a breaking point. Listen.
They lied to us from the beginning. So most of these people are disappointed, and getting frustrated at the time. So as you can see, every day that passes, it's more and more people that are coming. So there's going to be a point break where they're just going to say, let's rush in there,
And compounding the problem this morning, Rob and Jillian, as you can maybe see, it's raining now lightly, but at times it's been raining hard. And so the migrants, in addition to all of these problems, will be wet and cold. It's expected to rain most of the day, guys.
After about a 2,000-mile walk. Yeah, that is a tough time there. Griff, thank you so much.
A key witness in the Russia probe now intending to file a criminal complaint against Robert Mueller, just as a top Democrat demands President Trump sit down with the special counsel.
Todd Pyro joins us live with the latest developments as we get a look at the president's written answers to Bob Mueller. Hey, Todd.
Hey, guys. Good morning to both of you. In the latest shocking twist in the Russia probe, conservative author Jerome Corsi with a bombshell that he plans to go after Robert Mueller and his team in the courts.
What the special prosecutor is asking me to do is accept a fraudulent plea, which I am going to have my attorneys file criminal charges on with the Department of Justice. My experience made it clear to me that the political criminals are running the Department of Justice and Mueller's prosecution. They misbehaved, and they accused me of being a liar and a fabricator.
Yet undeterred, Democrat Adam Schiff calling for President Trump to sit down for an in-person interview with Mueller, saying the president's written answers weren't enough.
There really needs to be a live interview with the president because you need to be able to ask follow-up questions in real time.
All this coming as leaks of those written answers are coming out, specifically 2 key points. 1, President Trump telling Mueller that Roger Stone did not tell him about the Clinton WikiLeaks documents, and 2, that Trump wasn't told about the 2016 Trump Tower meeting with that Russian lawyer claiming to have dirt on Hillary Clinton. The president responding by tweeting, quote, while the disgusting fake news is doing everything within their power not to report it that way, at least 3 major players are intimating that the angry Mueller gang of Dems is viciously telling witnesses to lie about facts, and they will get relief. This is our Joseph McCarthy era. As for Paul Manafort, there are reports that Manafort reportedly gave untruthful statements to Mueller about his relationship with a Ukrainian associate, leading to the end of his plea deal and leading the president to say a pardon for his embattled former campaign manager is, quote, not off the table, guys.
All right. Thank you very much, Todd.
Okay.
All right, along the same lines, Roger Stone, the former Trump campaign advisor in the midst of Bob Mueller's investigation, is adamant that neither he nor Jerome Corsi had prior knowledge of WikiLeaks' plan to release those emails taken from John Podesta.
But he says they're being targeted because they support the president.
But I think it's despicable that they have tried to pit Jerry Corsi and I, both strong supporters of the president, against each other when the bottom line is neither one of us received anything whatsoever from Julian Assange or WikiLeaks or anyone else. My point is I had no reason for a cover story. Jerry said I was getting heat, but there was no heat. For 6 weeks, no one even noticed that tweet. It was not until the Podesta papers were published by WikiLeaks that became controversial. So I had no reason to cover it up. I had no advanced knowledge of the hacking or, the theft or the publication of the Podesta emails. I had no reason for a cover story.
The controversy stems from Stone's August 2016 tweet in which he said it would soon be the Podesta's time in the barrel. Stone says it referred to John Podesta and his brother Tony regarding their lobbying activities. The emails were released 2 months later.
Stormy Daniels calling out her own attorney, Michael Avenatti. She claims that Avenatti filed a defamation lawsuit against President Trump without her permission. Daniels also telling the Daily Beast that he started a second crowdfunding site for her legal expenses without telling her that either. Avenatti says he started the new campaign to cover legal fees because most of the money so far had gone to her security. Daniels has not decided if Avenatti will continue to represent her.
Nancy Pelosi is one step closer to becoming House Speaker. Democrats voted behind closed doors yesterday to nominate her for the job. The final tally, 203 to 32. Some Democrats opposed her nomination in recent weeks, saying they want fresh leadership. Pelosi will need 218 votes when the entire House meets in January to officially regain the title. The Senate is set to hold a tense confirmation vote on one of President Trump's judicial nominees today. Thomas Farr is facing resistance from Senate Democrats who claim he is hostile to union voter rights. The Senate Judiciary Committee canceled votes on nearly 24 other nominees. This amid outgoing Senator Jeff Flake's pledge to oppose all court picks until he gets a vote on a bill to protect special counsel Robert Mueller.
All right, the president will head to Buenos Aires, Argentina today for the annual G20 summit. He's expected to meet with several world leaders, including Russian President Vladimir Putin. According to the Kremlin, they're going to discuss anti-terrorism efforts, Syria, and North Korean denuclearization. President Trump will also hold talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping over this ongoing trade war. A lot of big meetings.
First Lady Melania Trump taking center stage in the fight against the opioid crisis.
We must commit to removing the stigma of shame that comes with addiction and helping change public opinion so that people find evidence-based treatment before it's too late.
The First Lady calling the opioid epidemic the worst drug crisis in American history during a town hall at Liberty University in Virginia. She also addressed bullying on social media before the crowd of 13,000 students.
Oh, blast off. Today, NASA plans to announce partnerships with U.S. companies to take America back to the moon. That news conference is scheduled for 2 o'clock this afternoon. The last time American astronauts landed on the moon was with the Apollo 17 mission. That was back in 1972. It's been a big week for the space agency. On Monday, they successfully landed that InSight lander on Mars that you see there. That was a great moment.
Cool.
Yeah.
It is 9 minutes after the hour. President Trump vowing to secure our border and build that wall, even threatening a government shutdown over it. But will Congress budge on funding? Republican strategist Kimberly Klacik says not if Democrats keep moving the goalposts, as she explains next.
There goes Carly. Hey, the holidays are back. So is FAO Schwarz. We got a tour of this legendary store as it returns to New York City. An inside look is coming up. All right, welcome back. Refusing to flinch, the president demanding a deal with Democrats to secure $5 billion that he wants to build the wall. But what would a deal look like? And can Congress get to it or get it done before the partial shutdown deadline of December 7th? Very close now. Joining me now is Republican strategist Kimberly Klacik. Kim, thanks for coming on this morning. Let's take a quick look at comparison, what the Democrats want to give on this, what the president wants. The Dems looking to spend $1.6 billion, not necessarily on a wall, but on securing the border. The president wants $3.4 billion more for just a portion of his wall. I did think it was interesting to hear Chuck Schumer come out there and say that, hey, we want to spend $1.6 billion to secure the border. I think that's some kind of progress, right?
That is, and that's a very specific amount. So Congress passed $14 trillion in spending, but we're being told they can't get $5 billion together to support funding our southern border. The problem with that is it's a charade. The only way I can explain it is to break it down by dollars. So in the fiscal year of 2019, we'll spend $4.4 trillion. $1.2 trillion of those dollars goes into a discretionary spending fund. Half of that goes to the military, the rest goes to domestic programs. So we do have funding there. We also have $111.4 billion sitting aside in an emergency fund that isn't even included in the budget. Half of that, or more than half of that, goes to spending money overseas to fund wars and everything that we have going on over there. But we do have money there. Now we have the departments of education, departments of HUD. We have all these departments that end up with $18.7 billion in emergency funding. So we do have money there. So the problem isn't about money. This is about Democrats and anti-Trumpers sticking it to Trump so he doesn't do his job, which is fulfill his campaign promises.
Yeah, well, we know the Democrats hate the idea of the wall. They despise the idea of the wall. The president's been doing the rounds, speaking to a lot of media that's not necessarily friendly to him. He had a Politico interview. He had a Washington Post interview. I'm going to pull a quote here from that Politico interview. I'm going to read it to you. This is in regards to maybe putting together a deal between DACA and the wall, which is something that we saw almost come to fruition maybe a year ago, and then it fell apart. The president saying if the court rules in favor of Obama regarding deferred action for childhood arrivals for DACA, having that right for the DACA, it's going to be a disaster because we will get nothing. We will get nothing done. The president is hoping that when the Justice Department takes DACA to the Supreme Court, that they will rule that you can't protect these kids. And then he can use that as a bargaining chip to get his wall. What do you think the chances are that the Supreme Court rules against DACA and in President Trump's favor?
Well, I'm not sure if they will rule in favor of Trump, unfortunately, in this situation. But I do think that the Democrats here, they're playing a political game, too. This is all about leverage for either side. The president even said he doesn't want to see DACA recipients go, but he does need that leverage to ask for his money for the wall. And he's just asking for a physical boarding wall. He's not even talking about all the money that we really need to secure the southern border.
Yeah. Well, here's another million-dollar question that a lot of people ask is whether or not either party really wants to solve this problem. Because every political party needs a reason and needs a way to drag their voters up off the couch and go vote on a cold Tuesday in November. And this is one way that they get that done. What do you think?
Yeah, this is definitely, it's a political game, and it's unfortunate because DACA recipients and so many families, their lives hang in the balance here, but they're going to keep kicking this can down the road because they don't. Like you said, this is all about votes and elections, and this isn't really about the American people or those that are here now as DACA recipients. This is about them and their political gain.
Well, you look at the numbers here, when you ask people, most people don't want open borders in this country, but also most people do want those DACA kids protected. So it makes you wonder where this goes with the Supreme Court and what happens here. The Justice Department does intend to take that to the Supreme Court at some point here in the future. We're going to have to see what happens. Kimberly, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks.
All right. 17 minutes after the hour, sliding sales, how Dick's Sporting Goods gun ban just backfired. We're going to talk about that. And also Dunkin' Donuts spreading holiday cheer. Look at all this junk food we got over here. And look at these 5. I'm going to join them coming up next. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. An illegal immigrant drug mule is behind bars after being deported from the United States 8 different times. Jose Salazar Aguilar, sentenced to nearly 6 years in jail without parole after a DUI and resisting arrest. The Honduran national was also found without insurance and a license. He pleaded guilty to entering the country illegally back in May. The 34-year-old was deported in 2013 for a different DUI, along with 7 other times for the delivery of heroin into this country. Look at that.
Over 250 prisoners are being investigated for allegedly stealing more than $500,000 from troops in a dating app scam. Navy investigators busting the South Carolina extortion ring that victimized 442 service members since 2015. Authorities say the inmates posed on dating apps as underage women, duping soldiers into wiring cash after sending explicit photos.
All right, a Fox Business Alert, a big comeback on Wall Street after the Dow spikes more than 600 points.
Tracy Carrasco from our sister network Fox Business joins us with what sparked that surge. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, guys. Yes, we saw stocks surging yesterday after some comments from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. He said that interest rates are close to neutral. So we saw the Dow jumping 617 points. We saw the S&P 500 up by 61, the tech-heavy NASDAQ rising 208 points. Now, a neutral interest rate means that inflation is stable, that the economy is on a sustainable path. Traders took that to mean that we might see less interest rate hikes in 2019. This is kind of a turnaround from some comments that Jerome Powell made back in October when he said we are a long way from that neutral point. So that was good news there for investors, exactly what they wanted to hear yesterday.
I think Jerome Powell is sick of reading the president's tweets.
Yes, and what we want to hear today is what's happening at Dunkin'.
Dunkin' Donuts, they've got their holiday menu, and we have some of the goodies to sample here. We have the Santa donut. You can see it looks just like Santa's belly. It has.
Is that what that is?
Yes.
I ate part of Santa's belly.
So there it is, full of jelly with a munchkin in the middle. Yes.
Let's show
so it's a 2-for-1 there. We also have a vanilla frosted with a mini. Try it out.
I want to show it.
With mini Hershey Kisses, vanilla frosted. And then we have some holiday coffees. We have cinnamon sticky bun coffee, white chocolate coffee, as well as some cinnamon
cream cheese
for the bagel. So lots of goodies at Dunkin' Donuts.
No. But he has a bowl full of. Doesn't he have a tummy with a bowl full of jelly?
You know what he does?
That could be a munchkin that's filled with jelly.
29.
I hadn't heard that, Janice.
I thought his belly was full of cookies
like a
from
bowl
all the
full
kids.
Of jelly.
Yes, I think that's right.
Not like a bowl full of jelly. Dunkin', you should put jelly in your donuts if this is Santa.
Eat a munchkin.
They should have jelly filled without the munchkin.
Eat Santa's belly. Go ahead.
I just want to
They have jelly-filled munchkins, don't they?
All right, nobody can hear anything because we're all talking at the same time. We're going to eat all this stuff.
It is 24 minutes after the hour. A dash cam capturing the moment a state trooper is nearly hit head-on by a semi. More of this incredibly close call coming up. And an alarming health alert on members of the migrant caravan. Dr. Nicole Saphier joins us next with the illnesses that some have right now. And she joins us, and maybe she's just here for the food. I don't know.
All right, back with a Fox News alert. Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis sending troops to northern Syria, trying to put a final end to ISIS. Mattis ordered observation posts to help crush what is left of that terror organization. It'll also allow the U.S. to warn Turkish troops in the area of any nearby threat. The roughly 2,000 U.S. troops already stationed in Syria will man the posts.
Prosecutors are expected to give an update today on a quadruple murder mystery at a New Jersey mansion. Last week, Keith Canero and his family were found murdered and their home burned to the ground. Meantime, Canero's brother, Paul, is accused of trying to kill his own family by setting their home on fire that same day. They were not hurt. They were able to make it out. Paul was due in court Wednesday for arson, but it was pushed back amid new evidence. Officials continue to investigate if there's a connection between the two fires.
Such a wild story.
Yeah.
All right, Senate Republicans block a second attempt by lawmakers to protect special counsel Robert Mueller. Jeff Flake, Chris Coons, and Cory Booker, one Republican, two Democrats, pushed for a full vote on a bill that would save Mueller from getting fired by President Trump, if that is ever going to happen. But Utah Republican Mike Lee objected the measure, calling it unconstitutional, and it died.
A deployed soldier gets a welcome home greeting of a lifetime. I can't get enough of this. Cassandra Cabrera was showered with kisses from her beloved Miss May at the Sacramento airport. She feared her furry friend wouldn't remember her, but Cabrera was deployed with the Army in Africa, and the dogs always remember. They always remember you.
They go nuts, too.
They do.
Cute.
Janice, we love this. Like, we're on the same page.
I could watch that on a loop over and over again. I love dog and soldier reunions. They're one of my favorite things.
So great.
Look at all that purple on that map.
Yes, I'm glad you noticed that. We do have cold air coming in from Canada. Not as cold as it was here yesterday in New York, but it is setting the stage for another winter storm that's going to affect the central U.S. over the next couple of days. Past 24 hours, we have a quick Clipper system that's moving across the Midwest and the Great Lakes, and that is going to move eastward. And then our next big system is going to originate from the west. So there's where we're going to see the, light snow activity across portions of the Midwest and the Great Lakes. But then we are dealing with several systems moving into the west. Now, they need the rainfall. It's going to be a lot of rain, though, in a short period of time. So flash flooding is going to be a concern. And we're getting a lot of snowpack already for the Sierra Nevada. Several feet of snow, as you can see, and then we could see the potential for several inches of rain along the coast. So we'll watch that. But that's the storm system that is eventually going to move into the central U.S., bringing a mix of snow and freezing rain and sleet and even the potential for severe weather tomorrow. And then that's going to all move eastward on Saturday towards the East Coast. A little too warm for snow along the East Coast, but we're certainly going to see the snow fly across the northern plains and the Midwest. We will keep you up to date. All right, Rob, Jillian, and Dr. Sapphire, over to you.
Thank you.
Got it.
All right, Fox News getting an exclusive look at a potential health concern here spreading through the migrant camps in Tijuana.
In an interview with the city's health department, Griff Jenkins has learned that doctors are treating more than 2,000 migrants for a host of major health issues.
Here now to weigh in on this is Fox News medical contributor Dr. Nicole Sapphire. Doc, thanks for coming on this morning.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me.
You've got 9,000 people, and it sounds like a good chunk of them have some kind of illness. They've traveled all the way through Mexico. They've been outside for weeks, if not months now.
It's raining.
This was probably bound to happen.
Right, so what we're seeing here is completely expected when you have overcrowding and poor sanitation, especially they have a lot of hepatitis A, which are GI infections, respiratory viral infections, lice. I mean, anyone being close to that, it's just going to run rampant. And my concern is you see several kids now with chickenpox or the varicella virus infection. In the United States, we do have vaccinations for it. South America, vaccinations are less. If that actually starts affecting a lot of adults, they tend to get even more sick than the children. So I do have concerns with that. HIV, it's not as transmissible as some of these other things. Right. However, you have a lot of open wounds that are being infected there. And so that is a way to potentially transmit HIV. So they do have a small medical tent outside of the shelter, but they're really only equipped to handle minor medical issues. Right. And some of these could potentially be very serious.
So some people may look at these and look at this list that we just had on the screen and say, but we have all of these things in this country, so what's the big concern? What's your answer to that?
Well, we absolutely do have all of these things in the United States. And no, this isn't something that we have to say, oh, you have to keep them out because they're going to infect the United States. Absolutely not. We have all of this here. And we see a lot of this when we have hurricanes and people go into the shelters.
True.
It's just another very concerning situation with the caravan because you're going to have a lot of ill people. And once they do come in, they are going to require medical attention. And, that can put a financial strain not only on the United States, but also what about the people? These people are ill and they do need care.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to move on to a second topic here. We're talking about Amazon and your medical records. What about this?
This is not surprising. The healthcare data is about $7 billion industry, and having a giant like Amazon, they acquired PillPack over the summer. So this is expected. I have some concerns, but I also see some positives in this. The positives are there's going to be a way to streamline billing because what they're doing is they've created essentially a robot or data to analyze all of our medical charts. So we like to abbreviate things in our charts, but they have found a way to find all these little pieces. And so we don't necessarily need people spending hours and hours going through these medical charts. So streamline billing, they may reduce costs because of poor billing or poor data, poor interpretation, and also can help potentially identify patients who would benefit from research trials by just going through this.
I guess you worry about like breaches and things like that, though.
Yes. Okay, so maybe I'm old school, but I get really concerned about data breaches because right now we already have viruses that infect hospital systems, doctors' offices, and then people hold them hostage and blackmail them for all that patient data. Also, what are they going to do with that data? Because we know that gets sold sometimes. I mean, we get robocalls constantly. So all of a sudden, you now have all of your information, your diagnoses, your treatments, that's just going to be out there on the cloud.
Branch off here for just a second. Are you worried at all about how all of these companies are kind of combining and there's less and less options?
So, and that is also another one of my concerns is that you're going to have this mega mogul giant Amazon who's really going to push out a lot of our small tech companies. And again, we saw this under the Affordable Care Act where you have all these mega institutions get rid of a lot of the small business physicians. And now this is the tech side of it.
Yeah, and then it merges with medicine as well if we see something like this with Amazon. All right, thank you so much, Doc. We appreciate it. 35 minutes after the hour, fighting back against active shooters with hockey pucks.
Hockey coach for my kids when they were growing up, and I remember getting hit in the head with a hockey puck once, and it hurt.
All right. A Michigan university now handing out pucks to protect against active shooters. I mean, one of the students who says it's not really a great idea. That's coming up next.
And move over, Knickers, the giant cow, Rob's favorite animal. There's another massive steer in town, and he's ready for a bovine battle. Stay right there.
All right, welcome back. Google could face major fines over the way it tracks millions of its users. 7 European watchdog agencies accuse the tech giant of tricking users into letting Google track their location. Data cybersecurity expert Lisa Garber joined us earlier with how people can protect their information.
Users have to become extremely aware of the controls that they have in their Google account. Maybe take a review of the privacy policy, even though they're extremely complicated, but just become aware of how ingrained this data is in your everyday life.
All right, so Google telling Fox News that their tracking is turned off by default, but depending on your phone and your app settings, they may still collect data. Dick's Sporting Goods takes a hit amid backlash against their tighter gun sale restrictions. Revenue for the chain has dropped 4.5% in the past 3 months alone. Dick's, as you remember, stopped selling assault rifles and raised the minimum age to purchase a gun after the Parkland shooting that left 17 people dead back in February. Jillian.
A Michigan university unveiling its plan to protect against active shooters by throwing hockey pucks at them.
Hockey coach for my kids when they were growing up, and I remember getting hit in the head with a hockey puck once, and it hurt.
The hockey puck fits really well into your briefcase or your backpack. It doesn't roll around when you're taking out your books.
Oakland University already arming their students and faculty with over 2,000 pucks. But is this the best way to protect our campuses? Here to weigh in, a freshman at that school, Oakland University, who is also a member of the College Republicans of Oakland University, Dylan Pescarolo. Thank you for your time this morning, Dylan. We appreciate it. Look, I guess I'm curious as to what students are saying about this.
Most students have been saying not too much about it. I don't think a lot of them know exactly the plan yet. As far as I know, the only people who know a lot about this is the Student Council of Oakland University.
What do you think about it?
I think that the money be put to pay for possibly something better. I think that a more effective way to combat against a school shooter would be actually having armed guards with on campus. Also, another thing that our school does not have is that the locks are on the outside of the door, and whether other than on the inside of a classroom. So I could imagine a professor who has to go outside and lock the door is going to have an extremely hard time with the amount of fear and panic they're going through. Whereas if they were on the inside, they would have a much would be a little more comfortable with locking the door than having to go outside and find the key and actually lock the door from the outside where the shooter is out firing his gun.
We did reach out to the school, and here's a statement from Oakland University saying Oakland University wishes to emphasize and reiterate that the idea of fighting an armed attacker with a hockey puck was offered in the context of a last line of defense in an active shooter situation. I'm wondering if you're happy that your school is thinking ahead, they're thinking outside the box, and they're trying to come up with different solutions.
I'm not 100% comfortable actually with this idea, because I don't even know if students will even go and get hockey pucks, for one. And I mean, we're not always the best athletes. I mean, the chance of us actually hitting somebody with a hockey puck could be very unlikely, especially if they're like 20 yards out or something like that. I know I'm not the best thrower. Most people I know aren't the best throwers, and most of the time that's going to be the last thing you're going to think about is throwing a hockey puck at an active shooter. Your first reaction is to run in the opposite direction and hide. So that's why I think that it's better that we have an armed guard at every entrance into the school, and also patrolling each building, each hallway, everywhere, so that if someone who does come into a school to attack people will actually
sorry to interrupt you. I'm just curious, while you're talking about this, have students raised that concern and that want that you're expressing to the school?
No, no one has actually. Like I said, a lot of people I don't think even know about the hockey puck idea. Just a lot of the political organizations and the student council and a lot of teachers.
Okay. We have a statement from the chief of police for the school, Mark Gordon, who says this was just a thing that was suggested that could possibly work, especially when you have 20 or 30 people in a classroom and they all throw hockey pucks at the same time. It would be quite the distraction. I mean, you make some points. We're hearing good points on the other side of it, too. I guess, is it better than nothing?
Definitely. It's definitely better than nothing other than just being there and not having anything to do. But still, I'm thinking from a point of view where I'm alone in a hallway where a shooter comes walking out of an elevator or a doorway and starts firing. Also, if maybe there are only like 5 students in the classroom, or everyone in the classroom is not able to, is not the best thrower. Right. Or if the person, there's a possibility that, maybe the hockey puck doesn't necessarily quite throw them off, so they just start firing away immediately. The best way, I think, like with many examples, like there was a shooting in Maryland, and only 2 students were wounded, and the reason why no one else was hurt was because there was a resource officer within the school that had a gun and fired and killed the person who came in to inflict a lot of harm upon this school in Maryland.
All right, well, we'll certainly see how this continues to play out. Dylan, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
No, thank you.
All right, 45 minutes after the hour now, and the holidays are back, and so is this iconic toy store, FAO Schwarz, right here in New York City, and we just got a personal tour. I'm a big 80s movie lover, and I love Tom Hanks. Yes. And I remember Big. Of course. And I remember that piano.
Our inside look at all the fun coming up.
Look at you.
Their feet do the talking. Wait until you see that. It's great. And it's coming up on Fox and Friends, which starts 10.5 minutes from right now, right here on the channel. Those three trusts. I didn't know she was there. Hey, Carly.
Hey, how you doing?
Thanks, and we're going to give you a little hint of that right now.
Yeah.
We're going to give you the whole thing right now. Steve, thanks so much. The holiday season is here, and that means holiday shopping.
And just in time, the classic toy store, FAO Schwarz, is back in New York City.
So Rob, Jillian, and I went to Rockefeller Center to check it out. Watch.
Big toy store.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Wear it. You gotta wear it the whole day that we're in here.
Oh, here you go. This is what we need. Did you have one of these when you were a kid?
Let me make you some food.
Oh, please do.
the Calexico port of entry when authorities took him in custody, and he is a self-admitted member of the MS-13 dangerous gang. The Customs and Border Protection issuing this statement saying Villalobos confirmed his story of his gang involvement and intent on entering the United States illegally. But as you mentioned, that is certainly not the only concern. Serious health risks are traveling in this caravan. We spoke with the spokesperson for Tijuana's health department, who gave us these numbers that they have treated 2,267 migrants, over 60% with respiratory infections, 3 confirmed cases of tuberculosis, 4 cases of HIV/AIDS, 101 cases of lice, 4 cases of chickenpox, and hepatitis is now a real concern because of the unsanitary conditions. You have over 6,000 people crammed in this space intended for 1,000 here just behind me. We spoke with one of those migrants, Marco Munoz from Honduras, who's seeking asylum, and he says that he feels like he was lied to from the organizers from the beginning, and he's worried we're reaching a breaking point. Listen.
They lied to us from the beginning. So most of these people are disappointed, and getting frustrated at the time. So as you can see, every day that passes, it's more and more people that are coming. So there's going to be a point break where they're just going to say, let's just rush in there,
Finally, Heather, it's been raining at times heavily on and off here. It is wet, it is cold, and it is going to take a toll even further on this caravan as we continue to monitor it. Heather?
Yeah, wet, cold, and clearly dangerous. Griff Jenkins, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Well, in other news, another story that we've been following for you, we now can tell you the names of the 3 U.S. Special Ops troops killed on the deadliest day in Afghanistan this year. Army Captain Andrew Ross, Army Sergeant First Class Eric Emmond, and Air Force Staff Sergeant Dylan Elchin died after their vehicle hit an explosive. 3 other American soldiers and a contractor, they were also injured near Kabul. 12 American heroes have died in Afghanistan this year. Well, President Trump will head to Argentina today for the annual G20 summit. He is expected to meet with several world leaders, including Russian President Vladimir Putin. According to the Kremlin, they will discuss anti-terrorism efforts, Syria, and North Korea denuclearization. President Trump will also hold talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping over rising trade tensions, and we will cover all of it for you, for sure. Well, a key witness in the Russia probe now intending to file a criminal complaint against Robert Mueller, just as a top Democrat demands President Trump sit down with the special counsel. Todd Piper joins us now live with the latest developments as we get a look at the president's written answers to Mueller. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning to you, Heather. In the latest shocking twist in the Russia probe, conservative author Jerome Corsi with a bombshell that he plans to go after Robert Mueller and his team in the courts.
What the special prosecutor is asking me to do is accept a fraudulent plea, which I am going to have my attorneys file criminal charges on with the Department of Justice. My experience made it clear to me that the political criminals are running the Department of Justice and Mueller's prosecution. They misbehaved, and they accused me of being a liar and a fabricator.
Corsi adding via tweet, quote, I have retained attorney Larry Klayman to assist David Gray in my defense. In a memo to my attorneys, I have instructed Klayman and Gray to file with acting AG Whitaker a criminal complaint against Mueller's special counsel and the DOJ for prosecutorial misconduct in my case. Yet despite this, Democrat Adam Schiff calling for President Trump to sit down for an in-person interview with Mueller, saying the president's written answers weren't enough.
There really needs to be a live interview with the president because you need to be able to ask follow-up questions in real time.
All this coming as leaks of those written answers are coming out, specifically 2 key points. 1, President Trump telling Mueller that Roger Stone did not tell him about the Clinton WikiLeaks documents. And 2, that Trump wasn't told about that 2016 Trump Tower meeting with a Russian lawyer claiming to have dirt on Hillary Clinton. As you might imagine, the president had something to say about all this, tweeting, while the disgusting fake news is doing everything within their power not to report it that way, at least 3 major players are intimating that the angry Mueller gang of Dems is viciously telling witnesses to lie about facts and they will get relief. This is our Joseph McCarthy era. So what about Paul Manafort, you ask? Well, there are reports that Manafort reportedly gave untruthful statements to Mueller about his relationship with a Ukrainian associate, leading to the end of his plea deal, also leading to the president saying a pardon for his embattled former campaign manager is, quote, not off the table. That's a lot to pack into 2 minutes, Heather.
It sure is, but you covered it all for us, and we're going to talk more about it coming up.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Todd.
Right.
Well, Stormy Daniels calling out her attorney, Michael Avenatti. She claims that he filed a defamation lawsuit against President Trump without her permission. And Daniels also telling the Daily Beast that he started a second crowdfunding site for her legal expenses without telling her. Avenatti says that she started the new campaign to cover legal fees because most of the money so far has gone